Good morning, Chevra. Today is Rosh Chodesh Iyar. It's also the 30th day of Nissan. So first of all, good Chodesh Iyar. Iyar stands for Ani Hashem Refecha. Everyone should have a complete healing in every way that they need, spiritually, emotionally, physically. And Hashem should heal the entire world and bring about ultimate peace and the coming of Mashiach now. Let's count the Omer together on page 137. Hayoim, Chamisha Asa Yoim, Shehem, Shnei Shavuos, V'yoim Echad LaOmer. Today is 15 days, which is 2 weeks and 1 day of the Omer. We're now on page 112. Today is a beautiful Friday morning. Really beautiful day out. And we're on page 112 in the Chayenu as we continue in chapter 43 of Tanya. In today's lesson, Tanya discusses two levels of love of Hashem. There's a lower level, just like in Yiras Hashem, there's a higher level and a lower level. We discussed more extensively the lower level because that's likely the level that we can at least try to attain, being that this is a book of Beinanim, right? Alter Rebbe is trying to speak to us. And then we have the two levels of love. And we're going to talk about the two levels of love. The Alter Rebbe now explains that there are two general levels, and here they are. So too, just as we had in Yira, in awe and fear of Hashem, two levels of love, so too in Ahava, in loving Hashem, there are two levels. Ahava Rabba, v'Ahavas Olam. Ahava Rabba, hi Ahava b'tainogim. So there's Ahava Rabba and Ahavas Olam. What does that mean? Ahava Rabba means a lot of love. And that's a love of delight, of ecstasy, of enjoyment, of instant gratification and satisfaction. A love of Hashem which delights in Hashem. There's no other desire or goal present such as the desire to cleave to Hashem or to expire one's yearning for Hashem. Like Nadav and Avihu, right? Nothing. The love itself is comprised purely of delight in Hashem and cleaving to Hashem. All I want is Nordich Alein, as the Alter Rebbe says in Ayemim, I just want you alone. Nothing else matters to me. It's a fiery flame that rises of itself. Man does not create or kindle this love within himself, rather comes forth spontaneously. You just get a yearning and a desire. I only want Hashem. It comes after, there's a story of a chassid that, Zashi, you're going to love this story. Chassid slept on the back bench of the shul for years, and he subjugated himself. He ate bread and water, and he slept on the back bench. And on his dying day, he said, I wish I slept on a bed comfortably. I'd probably have a few more years left to give, and I could accomplish more mitzvahs. And they all said of him, he would never have said that, and he slept on a bed his whole life. Paraphrasing, I shortened up the story, but the concept is, you're not going to reach this level of fiery love, wanting to cleave to God, if you didn't spend years of perfecting your Yiras Hashem that the Alter Rebbe spoke about leading up to this point. So it comes by way of a gift to he who is perfect in fear. So once you do the meditations of thinking about the greatness of Hashem, the low level of Yira that Hashem can do whatever he wants at any time, and then the higher level of Yira, which is a much greater fear of Hashem, and once you perfect that, then the love of Hashem is going to come to you, and you're just going to want to drop everything and just connect to Hashem in the deepest possible way, in the most holy, spiritual, fiery way. And our sages have said, Darka Yishal Ish Chazer Achar Isha. Sha'ava Nikres Ish V'Zocher Kameshkosu V'Zocher Chazoi. Our sages have said, listen, this is holy talk, okay? It's the way of man to search for a woman. In Kiddushin, it says that. Surprise, surprise. Right? Kiddushin is where it talks about getting married. It's the way of a man to search for a woman. And in spiritual terms, love is called male or man. As it is written, he has remembered his loving kindness. So the second letter of the verb Zochar is vocalized with a patach. Changing this vowel to a kamatz makes it male. Thus, love is alluded to as male. Okay. V'isha yiras Hashem Where does that come from? Eishes Chayil, right? Kenoida, when a woman symbolizes fear of Hashem. The connection between a female and the fear of Hashem is alluded to by the pasuk, a God-fearing woman. Isha Yiras Hashem, as we just quoted. This then is the spiritual meaning of the statement of our sages that the way of a man is to search for a woman. That's love. And then Isha Yiras Hashem, where a woman fears Hashem, as the pasuk says, a God-fearing woman. That's the level of fear which is already present and complete. So once there's that level of fear, then there can be love. Without the prerequisite of fear, it's impossible to reach this level of tremendous delight and love of Hashem, cleaving to Hashem. This is the old school approach, not the of surmer of asitayv. You want to reach the level of asitayv, first you got to clear away the rubble. You got to clear away the schmutz. You got to clean yourself up. You got to first do yira, and then you're going to make a keli for the hava. I know, but I'm bringing in, ki ava zoi, ki bechinas atzilus. The leis, taman, kitzutz, perut chas v'shalom. This love originates from the realm of, this is a very, very high love. Ava Rabba is a great, overwhelming, if you will. Person completely loses himself in his love for Hashem. Opa. Excuse me 1 second. Saw that you did. It was such a fiery love. The phone literally jumped out of its spot. See the flames coming down. Look at this. Okay. So in the world of Atzilus, nothing exists separate from Hashem. Nothing at that level feels that exists independently of Hashem. Everything is Atzilus, totally nullified. That's what it's right next to Hashem. Complete bittul. Okay. So that's as far as Ava Rabba is concerned. Avas Oilam, Yabba mehatevuna v'das v'gedulas Hashem etzav baruchu amemala kolam v'seiv kolam. And Avas Oilam, however, the second and lower level of love is that which comes from understanding and knowledge of the greatness of Hashem, who fills the worlds, and He animates them and permeates them, which is limited and tailored in mode of vitality, limited and tailored to the capacity of each creature. You know, not too much for this animal or bug or person and existence. Everything gets exactly what it needs. And it animates them with a vitality that transcends them by encompassing all the worlds, not being limited by the worlds and created beings it animates. And before him, everything is accounted as nothing. Complete bottle, complete one with Hashem. It is still in the thought or in the desire of the heart, as has been explained earlier. As a result of such contemplation, that Hashem takes His time to give everybody exactly what they need. But nevertheless, we're completely part of Hashem. We really don't exist. When we think about that deeply, we get a love in our heart and in our soul. Which is, as the result of such contemplation, the attribute of love, which is in the soul, will, as a matter of course, divest itself of all garments which it had previously worn. This means to say that the individual will cease loving those things he had previously loved. This love having previously led him to vest himself in those things, and all of his love will be directed towards Hashem alone. Someone said to me, it just now came up, we don't have the desire to worship idols. We don't have that anymore. There's things today that in our generation we don't have. I'm like, don't worry, we have plenty of idols. They're just called other things. They're called phones. They're called tivus in many, many different ways. So when we want to cleave to Hashem, we'll forget all that, all the other things. We'll put them on the side, and our love will be directed towards Hashem. Dahainu, shaloi tislabish b'shum dvar hana. V'tainu gashmi oirchani, lava oisei v'loi lachpa, it's klal shum davar ba'olam, Bilti Hashem levade makar achaim kol shel kol ha'tanugim. Meaning, a person will not clothe its. I'm sorry. Meaning, it will not clothe itself in anything of pleasure or enjoyment, whether physical or spiritual, to love it, and will not desire anything whatsoever in the world other than Hashem alone, the source of the vitality of all enjoyments. And how do we connect Hashem alone? Through study of Torah. As we learned extensively in Tanya, that's how we, right now, we're mamish feeling connected to Hashem. This is, the greatest love we could do by learning Torah, learning about Hashem. Shekulam b'teil mitzias kla mamish kamei chashivi ve'ein arech dimyoin klal ve'enim chas v'sham kamesh ein arech v'ayin ba'efes hamuchlot legabe chayim nitzchim. Everything is nullified in reality, and our mamish nothing compared to Hashem. There's no comparison. It's like saying, you can compare 1 to a million or even 1 to a billion. But when you say 1 to infinity, there's no comparison. Reflecting on this matter, by the way, later do a little thing. If you have an iPhone, you do, hey Siri, what's 1 compared to infinity? You'll see. It's an interesting exercise. Reflecting on this matter will lead the person to desire Hashem alone, and not to desire any worldly pleasures at all, seeking, as he will, the source of all pleasures, which is godliness. Mashakosov, me, loy. I'm not suggesting this, but if you ever tried an extended fast, you'll see in the beginning, you're like, I can't do it. And then after day 2, day 3, day 4, you're like, you don't really need to eat every day. I mean, you do, whatever, eventually. But I'm just saying, there's certain things. Beforehand, you wanted candy, you wanted sugar, you wanted certain things every day. Your staples, you this, you this, this. After you're like, if only I could have a sip of soup. You know what I mean? Or one little piece of something. That's all you need. But that's just low level. We talk about desire, we talk about food. So many taivas. The list is endless. The smells, the tastes, the visual sights, the touch, all these different things. The pasuk says, whom have I in heaven to love other than Hashem? And the verse goes on to say, and there's nothing upon the earth that I desire with you. This means to say that anything with you that is subjugated and nullified to Hashem is not desired as well. All I want is Hashem himself. The next verse says, my flesh and my heart yearn for you, rock of my heart. As the various levels of love a Jew may attain by contemplating God's greatness will be explained later. So all the above refers to a person who has a love for worldly matters. Taka is a human being. And what he does is he pulls himself away from this because he thinks about the greatness of Hashem. And he spends time loving Hashem. His love will be felt for Hashem rather than the mundane things. Instead of self-indulgence, I'm going to focus on connecting to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Again, this is a lower level of love, but this is attainable. We can hold off from eating something or doing something that's personally desirable, but really I'm going to focus on my love for Hashem right now. However, he who by nature is cold and removed from any feelings of love, whether it's to Hashem or simply or anything else, if a person is not an emotional type person, it's not emotionally based, he can't just transfer his love. If you love one thing, you can just transfer that love to Hashem or to something else. But if you're not a lover, you just call to fish, then how are you going to, what are you transferring? It's much more difficult for such a person to awaken a feeling of love for Hashem. Nevertheless, the Alter Rebbe goes on to say that even this type of person can arouse within himself a fiery love for Hashem through the above mentioned contemplation. V'gam, mi she'ein midas ahava shebenafshay, lebeshes klal b'shum tainu gashmi oiru chami, yochel lahaliv nafshay kiddush be'esh, v'shal heves aza, v'lahav ha'oila hashamayma, ayidei explaining this, and it's keres l'elkamesh spoiler, come on. Even a person who's a kind of a colder person, unemotional, also he, whose sole attributes of love is not yet vested at all in any physical or spiritual enjoyment, is also able to kindle his soul. As with burning coals, Sometimes the day after a bonfire, the morning after Lag BaOmer, we're going to check the coals. If there's any kind of anything left, you could still fire up the flames. All you have to do is contemplate the above matters, as we'll explain later on. So the question is, do you love something material? Of course, there's always going to be something that we can find that we love and has value to you. Pay attention to the value that Hashem has in your life, and you will surely come to love Him. Have a wonderful day, Chavre, and a good Chodesh, a good Shabbat.